Hi, this is my response for Intimate Apparel. So the first question is, what's memorable about the play? And something that I thought was memorable was the ending, because we don't know what happens with Esther, if she is pregnant or if she's not. And then we also don't know what happens with George and if he gets what he deserves. Because that's what I really wanted to see was, I don't know, something happens, there's some sort of revenge. But we don't see that, so we don't know. So that was memorable. Second question is points of tension. So one that we see throughout the play is between Esther and Mr. Marks. There's some sort of like relational chemistry that happens there. So that is tension between Esther's marriage and then their love, I guess we would say. Second point of tension would be when they Esther and George go to consummate their marriage, and that's tension between reality and then their, like, fictional, like, love from their love letters, since their letters were written by other people and they were just, like, read aloud to them. And George flat out says that she's not what he was expecting and she's not as pretty, basically. So there's tension there. And then a third point was with Mammy and Esther, when Esther sees the Japanese silk robe that she made for George at Mammy's house, or Mammy shows that to her. So there's tension between friendship and her marriage because her and Mammy go back a ways. And then there's George, who she wants like his love and she wants to be his wife, but he's obviously being unfaithful. A third question, something that reinforces stereotypes, was when it was hard for George to get a job. And that, like, reinforces, like, a bad stereotype of, like, it's hard for African Americans to find jobs, or, like, they get poor jobs or whatever, or they're, like, uneducated, because George is always, like, passed over for someone better. A time that resists stereotypes, it's actually gender stereotypes, not I guess like the African American stereotype, but is when both Mrs. Dixon and Esther are like doing well as like single ladies. They're both divorced, but like Esther like saves up all her money in her quilt, so she's doing well there, and then Mrs. Dixon is like running her like housing thing. And I think that resists a gender stereotype that like women can't do things on their own, which I think was kind of like a point for the playwright, was resisting gender stereotypes a lot. I think that was like an underlying thing. And then a thing that reinvents stereotypes was with Mrs. Van Buren, when she calls Esther a friend and then she like tries to kiss her. I think that was maybe illuminating the fact that like homosexual relationships happened back in the 1900s, and just that like Mrs. Van Buren, like, she was her only friend. Esther was her only friend, pretty much, is what it seemed like. So I think that was, like, reinventing a stereotype, maybe. And then question 4, yes, stereotypes still exist today. I think the thing that, like, perpetuates them is the media, just because those stereotypes are still around, and, like, they're true for some cases, but definitely not all. But the media kind of highlights that. I think how to overcome that, I guess it's just like positive instances that defy the stereotypes and like making that reality. Really, I went a little bit long, sorry.